before we get very far into our next story, we do have a warning for you tonight. What you're about to see and hear may not be suitable for children. Tonight, take a walk in their world.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Transpicuous News. I promised I was going to do these more often. It is February 26th. Yeah. You know, the craziness just increases every single day. And the transparency. Oh, the transparency of everything at the moment. It's insane. Have my coffee. Let's go. Share screen here. First off, we're going to talk about England for a moment, because of course that's where I am. Not a single case of flu has been detected by Public Health England this year as COVID restrictions suppress the virus. Now you gotta love this. You gotta love this. And the latest announcement by Boris, I'll come back to in a second. Let's take just one little bit here, okay? So not a single case of influenza has been detected by public health officials in England for the past 7 weeks, with infection rates at historic lows amid the ongoing COVID-19 restrictions. Social restrictions brought in to curb the transmission of coronavirus, combined with an increased uptake of the flu vaccine, have been credited with driving down infections. Now they go on in this article to talk about how awesome all these masks, you know, because everyone's wearing masks all the time and social distancing and gloves and the restrictions and the lockdowns, they've all magically made the flu disappear. Just disappear. The transparency in this is, of course, besides the fact that any logical person in the world can go, COVID seems an awful lot like the flu. But the flu's disappeared, but now we have COVID. Yet the death rates of this year and last year, compared to any other year in the last 10 years, have remained the same, if not marginally less. And yet we have articles that have continuously come out, and now this plays across the board. Now I'm using England as the example right now because most countries have put up similar announcements to this about magically the flu's disappeared. And yet they're still complaining COVID-19 is happening because you're not taking enough precautions. We still have COVID because not enough people are wearing masks, not enough people are social distancing, not enough people are taking all these precautions seriously. And that's why the COVID keeps coming back. Yet it worked for the flu, but it doesn't work for the COVID. Now, the interesting little piece on this is, if the masks work that well, should we all remember where COVID purportedly came from? China, a place where everyone wears masks. Everyone wears masks all the time because of pollution. Didn't help them, but somehow it's magically gotten rid of the flu. Funny that. Let's go on though. There's a couple of things here I want to talk about today. This, 2 days ago, this came out. University study finds that COVID survives 3 days on fabric. 3 whole days it survives on the fabric. Be afraid. Now the article goes through all kinds of stuff, and it's mostly focused on hospitals, that hospital uniforms could just become a petri dish if they're not laundered correctly to spreading the virus. A little transparency though. Scientists have found viruses, important, similar to the strain that causes COVID-19, can survive on commonly worn fabrics for up to 3 days. Viruses similar to the strain. Now, if you're a university that is doing a study, a serious study, about how long COVID-19 could survive on hospital uniforms and PPE, wouldn't you use the actual strain COVID-19 to do the tests with? Wouldn't you use that strain because that would lend validity to your study results? Wouldn't it? Or is this yet another little tiny finger pointing to the fact that they've never isolated the COVID-19 strain? And of course, like I said, the whole article goes through it's all talking about hospitals, but at no point in time do they mention even once all the cloth masks that all the people around the world are currently wearing. Isn't that funny? COVID stays on those cloth masks for 3 days. So technically, you could use this study to say people shouldn't be wearing masks because COVID-19 lives on the mask for 3 days. Oh, so dangerous. This is interesting. This came out of the Irish Times. Time to question our tech billionaire overlords. And of course, it points out the whole thing that we talked about back earlier in the year. The giant tech companies and their founders have had a very good pandemic. Citing the Oxfam research, she highlighted the world's 10 richest people, including Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, witnessed their wealth grow collectively by 451 billion euros. Remember, this is in euros because this is the Irish Times. During the pandemic. And it goes on to talk about Bill Gates. This is the focus on this. And the whole article's got some interesting pieces. I would highly recommend everyone give it a full read. Just a couple of nice little shots out there of transparency, talking about, for example, Oxford University, who was strangely enough, was developing a COVID-19 vaccine in January of 2020 before the pandemic had been announced. Funny that. How they had said that they were going to put out all their research as open source so that everyone could benefit from their research. And then Bill Gates stepped in and gave them money, and suddenly that vaccine was under the control of AstraZeneca, and it's all private, and they weren't going to share their research because, capitalism, which is Bill Gates' favorite thing to talk about. Little point. Gates used to be wildly unpopular, a ruthless chief executive whose company, Microsoft, savaged every rival and had to pay billions in fines for monopolistic practices. At the Columbia Journalism Review, Bill Schwab outlined how he examined more than 20,000 charitable grants the Gates Foundation had made and found over $250 million had gone towards journalism. Funny, if you give all the journalists who are giving you the bad press money, suddenly you become the savior of the world, right? Is that not what we've seen? Said the whole article is interesting. I suggest everyone give it a read. It's the last paragraph. In 2018-19, they, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, donated a higher percentage to cash-strapped WHO, World Health Organization, than the individual donations of the EU Commission, the US, and the UK. Gates discovered that it is more than possible to buy political influence and to shape the course of human history, all while being praised for being such a great guy. Is it not past time to question our new overlords? That paragraph, such glaring transparency of everything that we have seen in the last year, of how all of a sudden Bill Gates has become a specialist in immunology and virology and a specialist in all these fields of which he holds not a single degree. And the media is continuously putting him forward as, here's our honorable person who's going to tell us what to do. Isn't he a nice guy? On this vein, this came out this morning. Europe must hurry up with COVID-19 health certificates or Apple and Google could get there first. Who, what now? As the EU remains divided on how exactly COVID-19 health passports should be implemented, they're really pushing this hard in the EU. They are pushing really hard. Commission President has urged members to hurry to find a European solution, warning that big tech might step in first. Wait, are you saying that big tech companies are going to step in first ahead of governments and take over this aspect, these COVID-19 health passports? And it goes into all the details about Israel and their being, their health passports, which are now being, of course, fraudulently prepared, and you can buy a fake one anywhere on the market. If no European solution regarding the health certificates comes soon, big tech would unavoidably fill the void. It is important to have European solution because otherwise others will go into this vacuum. Big tech is going to fill the vacuum and take over where countries dare not tread, which goes along with what I've been saying for a while, is that we're not going to see countries mandate vaccines, because the reality of it is it goes against multiple international conventions, multiple international treaties. But if tech companies do, if all the corporations, the grocery stores, the theaters, any company, the pubs, mandate that you have to show a health passport to come in. Not the government's fault. Corporations can say whatever they want. They can make their own rules, right? Isn't that funny how that works? Okay, we're going to break with this a little bit. We're going to go on to something a little different. If you guys have been if anyone has been following my work since fucking donkeys years ago, I have been taking the piss of the US F-35 fighter jet program openly ad nauseum since at least 2014. The F-35 fighter jet program is a fucking joke. It's a joke. They have never succeeded. And even though they keep selling all these jets and taking orders and payments for all these jets from all these other countries, it's been a joke. It has been a failure from the beginning. $1.7 trillion failure. Well, it's just been kind of sort of outed that no, it actually is a complete and utter failure. By Forbes magazine, the U.S. Air Force admitted the F-35 stealth fighter has failed. Here, at the very bottom. Again, always look for that one sentence. I always say this. There'll always be one sentence in every article that is the sentence that brings it all together. They're talking about the comments that are flying in because people are freaking out saying we could have wiped out student debts with that money. We could have fed the poor. We could have put the homeless in homes. All of these things they could have done. But here we go. Like Daily Beast reporter Spencer Ackerman joked that the plane isn't really a failure since it very successfully transferred hundreds of billions of dollars of your money to defense contractors. As I said, back in 2015, that was the sole purpose of the F-35. F-35 was nothing more than a high-tech money laundering scheme. It was literally, this is how we're going to funnel billions, hundreds of billions, no, $1.7 trillion into defense contractors. And poof, it's gone. Now, most of the funding for the F-35 was hidden in all kinds of bills that were passed in budgets. Going back to, Joe Biden and his $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package that less than 20% of the money in that package that's been demanded actually has anything to do with COVID. Funny, where's all that other money going to? Yeah, my friends. Corporations rule the day. It's funny what they'll do to launder a little bit of money to make it clean again. Kind of like this. I posted this on Facebook and social media a couple weeks ago. The paintings of Cy Twombly, no idea. One of the most expensive contemporary artists. The price of his paintings is between $2 and $75 million. And you could give any toddler a crayon and a blank wall and have one of these amazing works of art in your home today for the cost of a box of Crayola. It's not about art. It's always about money laundering. This is how they launder the money. They have all that illegal money. They need to clean it up somehow and show something of value to use it on. And suddenly, wall scribblings are worth millions of dollars. So yeah, a little bit of transparency for your morning. Shit really doesn't get much more transparent than this. Those corporations, though, they sure do have it nice for themselves, don't they?
Isn't the right one? Not too sharp, I got anything left. Look for it at the right time, but it doesn't seem to come. Or do I get distracted by the turbulence?